welcome back to another episode of Wrestling Collector's Zone. Today what I have for you is a movie review. The movie review that I am doing today is Chokeslam. The movie's called Chokeslam, and it was released in 2018. The movie itself is based on a story. It starts off later in the story of that a gentleman, I can't remember characters' names right off the bat because I've been watching like so many wrestling documentaries and movies and stuff, so it's hard to keep up at this point. But the guy, and basically like a short synopsis of it, what happened was the guy is being robbed at where he works, which is like a little meat market. And then it turns out the guy that was robbing him was a schoolmate that went to school with him. And then once he finds out, he ends up basically lying and saying that no, he wasn't robbing the place. The guy that works there says no, he wasn't robbing the place, that he was helping him or something like that. He had stopped a robber or something like that. The guy asked him, well, aren't you going to the reunion tonight, which was apparently their school reunion? And he said no, and it kind of did like a little flashback of, turns out that the person coming in town was the girl that he grew up like kind of best friends with throughout school. And he did something like right at the end of school when they were graduating that really embarrassed him, and I guess broke their friend separation. The girl ended up kind of rejecting him. Sheena was the girl, or the woman that basically she kind of rejected him in front of the whole school. And it embarrassed him, and I guess it caused like quite a bit of trauma. There was an incident later in life that he sat there and had an incident that people thought he was trying to actually kill himself. Corey was his name. That's his name. Corey was the guy, and there was an incident where they thought that he tried to kill himself because she had rejected him in front of the whole school. And so that caused kind of a lifelong problem for him. And later on, and he was afraid to approach her again, so he wasn't going to go to the reunion. But then Luke, who was the bad guy, essentially, that was robbing him, kind of talked him into it. And so he went to the reunion and ended up, he tried to avoid her, but then ended up running into her at the reunion and embarrassed himself again. And by this time, this was years in the future, essentially, and she had now became a professional wrestler. She was a woman's professional wrestler at this point because she had always been interested in wrestling. And so he essentially embarrassed himself again in front of her and again in front of the school. And so he left the reunion, and later on, basically like the next day, they kind of get back together a little bit and start to talk a little bit. And he comes up with the idea of having her wrestle in the town at the local wrestling place that they have. Because she's talking about that she's wanting to retire. And he's like, well, this is the best place for your retirement match, blah, 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 blah. And So she at first was against the idea, but then came to accept the idea. But actually her boyfriend Tab was also her manager, and so he was kind of behind the scenes doing dirty things and wanting to lead up to, even though she wanted to retire, he wanted her to continue wrestling to make him money, basically. And he tried to talk her out of it, but then ended up accepting the fact of it because he got some big wigs from Japan to come to watch her in her retirement match, to end up basically tricking her into, at this point when Corey was trying to help her get out of wrestling because she was wanting to get out, Tab ended up saying, oh, there was going to be one more match, and surprised her with the fact of it, and come tomorrow night, and blah, blah, blah. And then that's when he told his idea, basically, that he had big wigs that were coming from Japan that were interested in bringing her over for wrestling matches and yada, 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 tour, stuff like that. And so this wasn't the time for her to retire. And so kind of the whole movie, Corey and Tab and Luke was in between helping Corey to try to reconnect with Sheena. But Corey was trying to help Sheena. On the other hand, Tab was working against him and trying to keep her wrestling. And basically, he, behind Sheena's back, he would go and like approach Corey and try to intimidate him and stuff. And it was just, overall, it was a real good storyline. I feel that it was a real good storyline for like a wrestling movie, because we haven't seen really any wrestling movies, and I can't even remember how long, like an actual wrestling movie like this that had like a wrestling backline storyline, real movies since maybe Ready to Rumble or something like that. And it's just kind of it's great to see that there was a new movie put out that had to do with pro wrestling, that it wasn't just the basic documentary or, you know, the behind the scenes, the Beyond the Mat or the Resurrection of Jake the Snake, stuff like that, that it was actually like a actual produced movie that had a storyline to it. So I feel that this was a really good movie, to my liking at least, because I enjoy watching lots of movies and comedies, and this leaned a lot more towards comedy more than anything. But I feel overall they did a really great job with kind of the storyline, and there was some other pro wrestlers that were in the movie, which was Mick Foley. Today, to see who else was in there that I couldn't remember, because I knew there was at least a couple other wrestlers. And Davey Smith Jr. had a part in it. I don't remember what part he had in the movie, but he was also listed as on the cast of the movie. And then there was another women's wrestler that was listed on the cast as a professional wrestler. So it was just real nice to overall see a movie that had a wrestling storyline to it, and it was about wrestling without making a joke out of wrestling completely or anything like that, and just to overall be a good movie that you could sit back and enjoy, have some good laughs, and just, you know, watch a good movie. And I would say overall this would be it, definitely. In my opinion, like Ready to Rumble was one of my more favorite movies too. I know a lot of people kind of hated Ready to Rumble and said it made a joke of wrestling, but it was a pretty funny movie. And overall, I myself love anything to do with wrestling, whether it's movies, documentaries, stuff like that, as long as it can kind of run a storyline or something of the sorts without making a pure, complete joke out of wrestling itself. And I think that the movie Chokeslam And again, it had came out in 2018, was a very well done movie that did that without making a joke of pro wrestling itself. So if you want to check it out, I watched it myself on Amazon Prime. I'm a Prime member, and if you are an Amazon Prime member, you can watch it for free on Amazon Prime. If not, you can rent it from Amazon Prime. I believe it's $3.99 or $4.99, somewhere around there. I know you can also rent it off the Google Play Store if you need be, and that's what you prefer. I know it's also on Apple TV that you can rent it, but I don't know the price because I don't have really any Apple products nowadays or anything like that. But overall, it's also on Blu-ray, so you can find it online if you can find a store to purchase it from online, or I'm for sure, 100% sure that I have seen it on eBay as well, that it was released on Blu-ray and DVD. So if you just want to pick up a copy of the movie yourself, I'm sure you could do so for under $20. So if you want to check out maybe eBay or something and search Chokeslam 2018 movie, and you'll find it on there as well. As I talked about last time, that I now have my own rating scale of, instead of doing stars, what I want to do is a 1 to 5 scale system. It's a 1 to 5 scale system that is going to be lariats, as it is called, or some people also know it as clothesline, or both. But a lariat is a clothesline in wrestling term in wrestling. If you don't know the term yourself, if you're like not too much of a wrestling fan or just getting into it, you could always Google it. I'm gonna actually start putting the system, like have a scale system put on the screen when I do reviews when I can, once I get that fully set up. But I am going to give this a 4 out of 5 lariats. It was definitely a great movie. It met all the skills of being a great movie, great comedy, that it had to do with our subject here, pro wrestling. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it. It did a great job of a pro wrestling story throughout the whole movie without actually making a joke of it, even though it was an actual comedy. So just overall, it touched on all scales for me, that I will give it a 4 out of 5 lariats. Thanks for joining me here at the Wrestling Collector Zone for this review on the movie Chokeslam. We have a lot more reviews coming up in the future, so just stay tuned. Some are on documentaries, some more will be on movies as well, probably, if I come across them. But make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notifications whenever I post a new video. Please also share with everybody on our channel, letting them know about our channel, because again, once we hit that 100 subscriptions, we are going to start doing the giveaways, and from there we will have either monthly or weekly giveaways. Hopefully we will be just doing weekly giveaways right off the bat and see how it goes from there. But then, thanks again for joining us. Make sure you guys stay safe out there in that pandemic, and you guys stay safe and have a great day.